We have another comment from Super Bowl Cartier US. Um, I just question how will we get an adequate wing and or a number two level score next to Cade, especially when we're keeping Ivy and Duran and everyone. This is a great question. We can kind of break this down. I would say when I look at it, Jaden Ivey was having the probably his best career as a Piston. He was second in scoring next to Cade at 17 and a half, I think 17.6 to be exact, shooting 40% from the field, right? And I think Jaden Ivey could be that secondary scoring option. I don't think he's a finished product. I think he can get a lot better offensively. I think him shooting 40% from three is something that is obtainable. I think he could get better at finishing around the rim, but I think Jaden Ivey could be your number two level scorer. And that might sound a little optimistic. I know a lot of people want the Pistons to go out and get that star, that superstar, that number two next to Cade. But I think if you stay a little bit patient with Jaden Ivey and the way Cade's playing like a top 10, top 15 NBA player right now, there's no doubt in my mind that, Jaden Ivey could be that 20 point per game guy next to Cade, especially when he's feeling it offensively. Like the one game that I always go back to, and when I talk about Jaden Ivey, is the game in Phoenix when he came back from a toe injury. I want you to watch that game because Jaden Ivey was active defensively. He was firing on all cylinders, scoring at all three levels, and really making an impact on both ends of the floor. Um, I would just be a little bit patient with this backcourt because they're both incredibly young. They're not even 25 years old yet. We're already talking about like we need number two scoring option. I think if you stay a little bit patient with Jaden Ivey, he could definitely be a number two option next to Cade Cunningham. And I know some people probably don't agree with that. That's just how high am on Jaden Ivey personally. But I can understand people wanting to get like another two, maybe a small forward that scores a little bit more. I get it. I just don't know who that would honestly be personally. Um, if you look at free agency, there's not like a whole lot that's probably appealing for the Pistons. You probably have to look at the trade market, and then it's just like, who are you giving up to get a number two option, a number two scoring option next to Cade? Like, what part of the young core are you going to try to give up? Um, I think this front office is definitely looking at all those avenues. But I think for right now, when I look at Ivy, I think he's definitely a guy that could be that number two option. And maybe some people don't agree with me. That's just the way I view it. I know Adam Perry says maybe it's Holland in a couple of years. I mean, yeah, if Holland keeps progressing and getting better, maybe Holland's that number two. Um, I honestly think that when you look at it, a lot of fans, and I know it's just not you, Super Bowl. Like a lot of fans have always asked, like, when are we going to get that number two? When are we going to get that, superstar next to Cade? I get it. I just think like the way this core is developing and the way um, they're playing right now, I think you have to be very very careful with your next like quote unquote big move because like if you think there's someone out there that's not on this team and you possibly trade a young guy that is still developing, and it comes back to bite you in the ass. I can already like hear the fan base like, oh, we gave up on this guy too quickly and he's popping off somewhere else, right? Um, here's Johnny. Duran has taken major steps forward. He has. Sar's taken major steps forward. A lot of the young guys have developed quite a bit this season under JB and Fred Vincent and this entire coaching staff. So I think the organization, from my understanding, talking to reporters, are just being very patient right now. When there is a move to be made, they're going to strike. They're just being very calculative with how they want to construct this roster. Because if you look at the Detroit Pistons roster right now, like you look at the long term contracts, there's two players that are on long term contracts. Cade Cunningham, who just signed a super max extension, and Isaiah Stewart. Everyone else Tobias Harris, 2-year deal. Malik Beasley expiring, probably will get re-signed. Tim Hardaway Jr. expiring. Simone Fontecchio, 2-year deal. That's very movable. Um, and all the other guys are on rookie deals, rookie contracts, cheap deals. Um, you have, some decisions to make whether or not you want to extend Ivy or Duran. So I think this front office is set up in a way where when there is a move to be made, I think it will be made. In my opinion, I think it will either be made this summer, possibly, or in a year. Just the way the contracts are lined up with the Detroit Pistons right now, I think when you look at just long-term contracts, a lot of these guys are very movable. A lot of these guys are on rookie deals. So I'm just going to trust in this front office because they've done a complete 180 this season. Bringing in costly veterans that have really impacted winning. We're talking about the Detroit Pistons having 30 wins. We're talking about a team that isn't a play-in team; they're a playoff team right now. So I think when there's a move to be made and they feel that there's a number two guy to pair next to Cade, they definitely will. But I think for right now, they're just evaluating everyone on this team and seeing what everyone can do at the end of the day. I know fans want that, that star, that big move, but I would just caution fans, like, enjoy this ride for this season, see how they do in the playoffs. And I think once we, get into the playoffs and when the Pistons do make the playoffs, because I do think they will be a playoff team, we're going to see where they need areas of improvement. We're going to see what positions they possibly need to upgrade. And when we've talked about it, we've talked about more front court depth. We've talked about more size at the power forward in the center position. We've talked about, more secondary scoring and ball handling all throughout the season on these post game podcasts. So I think we'll find out a lot about this team over the next 25, 26 games, whatever's left for the season. But overall, I'm just enjoying this ride right now.